Welcome to A Leader's Journey, the podcast for leaders who deeply believe there is a better way to lead and desire to create their unique journey towards becoming a legacy leader. I'm your host, Shannon Hammond. Over the last 20 years as a corporate leader and leadership performance coach, I've learned that many leaders believe there is a predefined path they have to follow and struggle leaning into their unique gifts that will create lasting impact and fulfillment. They end up feeling stuck, unhappy, and unfulfilled in the day-to-day of their role, and are challenged with why, since they have experienced success in their career and in life. I'm here to help leaders think through their leadership journey, learn how to ask themselves better questions, and learn the formula to create their leadership journey by design. If you are ready to design your unique leadership journey, lead with confidence, and love the teams you lead, then you are in the right place. Let's do this. Hello, my friends and fellow leaders. Welcome to A Leader's Journey. I'm your host, Shannon Hammond, and I'm glad to have you back here with me this week on the podcast. And if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I'm so happy that you are here. I know that your time is valuable, and I'm grateful that you have chosen to spend some of it here with me today, and that you are taking the time to invest in your growth and development as a leader. Avoiding tough conversations leads to bigger problems in leadership. Yet new leaders, they often find themselves avoiding or delaying the difficult conversations they know they need to have. Today on the podcast, we are going to talk about why new leaders avoid difficult conversations, the impact it has, and I'm going to share with you a framework you can follow for handling these conversations with ease. Difficult conversations, they are a part of leadership. We all know this and believe that we are ready for those conversations when we get into a leadership role. When the time comes, new leaders, they get nervous because now it's real and they start to doubt what they should do and if they are truly prepared. This is totally normal and it happens to all of us. It happened to me early in my leadership. I thought I was ready. I had done it before when I was an individual contributor and had many difficult conversations. And when it came up after I got promoted, it just felt different. And I found myself in this place where I didn't want to have the conversation. What was happening with me? This is normal. And I wanted to share with you a couple things that I learned about myself and what I've heard from other new leaders about why it is that they struggle with these difficult conversations. Here are some of the things that I found. So fear of conflict is one of them. As a new leader, conflict is the last thing that you want. You're trying to build a relationship and trust with your new team members. You're learning your role and trying to figure out what does a typical day or week look like for you. And the last thing that you need on your plate while you're trying to learn all of these other things about your role is a conflict situation. So we might sweep them under the rug or pretend that they're not there or avoid them. I also found that as humans, we tend to have people-pleasing tendencies. And as leaders, we're all people pleasers, right? Naturally, we want people to like us, especially our team members, especially new team members. We think that if we can avoid that difficult conversation, then our team members will like us and that they will be happy. We don't want them to think that we're there pointing out their flaws, being negative about their performance, or that it's personal. Yet that always backfires on us because that's not really what our team members want. And we've all had those situations where we were trying to please everybody, and yet we were the ones that ended up dealing with the consequences of those actions. I've also found that, especially new leaders, they get stuck on the how. Now, there's a lot that a new leader needs to know. They get procedures guides and handbooks thrown at them that are hundreds of pages, and they're worried that maybe they'll miss a step in the conversation or they'll miss having to connect with a certain person about it. This then tends to get reinforced when they meet with their HR department to understand what their role is and how. And then it ends up happening that they then reinforce the importance of following the disciplinary process and getting HR involved before the conversation happens, which is something very critical to do, by the way. And it's all done with the best of intentions. And I can tell you that your HR department, they're truly your partner. So don't leave them out in it. So take their guidance seriously, listen to the things that they have to say, but don't overthink it and get in your head about it. They are not sharing all of that stuff to scare you or to make you worried about it. They are there so you understand what their role is, how they can help you, and that if we don't partner with them, that we may be missing an opportunity that could cause some serious consequences for the company. I promise you, your HR department, they're there to help and support you and set you up for success. So use them. Again, just don't overthink what it is that they're sharing with you. It's their responsibility to paint a picture of their role and the consequences of decisions that we make. Now, when you avoid the difficult conversation, you might find that maybe in that moment you feel good, or it's one less worry that you're having to carry for that moment or that day. Yet there is a long-term cost that is associated with that behavior. You'll lose trust from your team members. Team performance levels, they drop. And in many instances, it leads to poor performance. And then you needing to have even harder conversations with your team members because now you're having to address and follow potentially a formal disciplinary process to address their behaviors. And you lose the respect of your fellow leaders and team members. And then again, now you have bigger problems that are on your hands that you have to deal with. So, what can you do to prepare for difficult conversations and have them with confidence? Well, today I want to share with you a 4-step approach to handling those difficult conversations that I have found works very well for me and other leaders that I have shared it with. Step number 1 is you need to be prepared. Prepare with clarity and intent. You need to know the situation that you are going to be discussing, why you're having the conversation, and what your intention is for that conversation. So you need to get all of your information together. You need to know, here are the things that you know about the situation. You might have gaps in your story, so you need to be open to that, but you need to get all of that information and prepare. I know early in my leadership, sometimes I would actually write down everything that I wanted to say word for word. Did I always follow it exactly that way? Not really. But I found when I did that prep and I knew exactly what it is that I was wanting to share, what I was looking to get out of that situation, what my intention was for the conversation, I was able to step into it with a lot more ease and confidence because I had prepared for it. It's like everything else. When you prepare, you feel better about those situations. Now, step number 2, when you're in the conversation, you need to use empathy and active listening. Difficult conversations are not just for you as the leader to be talking. You need to be listening. Good leaders listen. Because again, while you did prepare, you prepped the information that you knew, and there might be pieces to that puzzle that are missing that only the other person that you're talking with can fill in for you. So you need to be really listening to the things that they're saying, what they're not saying. Look at their body language when you have the conversation. So I recommend if you're doing these in a virtual environment, it might be best to do them through like Zoom video or some way that you can actually see each other. If you need to do it on the phone where there's no video, then do it, but listen really for the tones and the inflections in their voice. Listen with the mindset of empathy. Again, there might be things going on that you just don't know about. And if you stick too strictly to your script or just focus on addressing the issue, you might miss an opportunity where you need to be empathetic to your team member. Maybe they had a personal situation, a family emergency that came up that they hadn't yet shared with you. And maybe that impacted their performance that day. And you need to be empathetic to that situation. Doesn't mean you don't address the behavior. You just don't want to be cold-hearted around something that very well may need some empathy to it. So use empathy and active listening when you're in that conversation. Step number 3, again, while you're in the conversation and you're talking about the issue, address the issue with facts, not emotions. It's not about how you feel. It's about the behavior or the actions of the other person. Stick to the facts of what happened, not your emotions about them, not your feelings, your beliefs, or your perceptions. Now, you might need to share how their behavior impacted you, but don't do that in a way that is highly emotional. It's okay to say, when you said this, this is how it made me feel. Or when you said this is the response that I had to it. But again, that's sticking with the facts of it, not getting in your feelings about what happened. For me, I find it helpful, especially with conversations where performance is falling short. I also like to be able to share data of their key performance metrics. Data doesn't lie. It's not always the full story, but the numbers are the numbers. And if there's a specific measurement that needs to be hit, you either hit it or you missed it. It really is that simple. If you're supposed to have an output of 40 and your output was 30, you didn't hit 40. Let's talk about why and where the gap is, right? And that metric sometimes will help you take the emotions out of it, because again, you're both going to be looking at the same data. And again, data doesn't lie. Not always the full story, but it doesn't lie. All right, step number 4 for handling the difficult conversations. As you are getting towards the end of that conversation, this is where you need to create that path forward with accountability. You need to be able to talk through the situation, what happened, why it happened, and then you need to talk about what's next. How are you going to move forward? What actions or behaviors do you need to see from this point on? Is there certain measurements and certain metrics that need to be hit? What those are? And then you need to discuss, what does accountability look like? Are there going to be specific check-ins? Does that other person need to bring things to you or share certain things with you? Whatever that is, get clear on the what's next, the path forward, and how accountability is going to come into that. You as the leader, you might have a piece of accountability in it of, I'm going to schedule check-ins on these particular days, and then that's on you to get them on their calendar. But the actions and the behaviors is on your team member, and you need to be able to clearly articulate to them, what does the behavior look like that meets and or exceeds expectations, and here's how, after this conversation, you're going to be expected to show up, to perform, whatever that is. This is the expectation, and here's how you're going to be held accountable for it. We all are accountable to somebody, and we need to make sure that we are clear on what that looks like and what that check-in process is going to be. Now, I do want to share a bonus tip with you. When you're in these conversations, don't make it all about you. It's not about you. It's about the other person. Again, their behaviors, their actions, where they may be falling short. If you start the conversation with, I feel, or here's how this impacted me, you're going to lose credibility in that conversation because you just started out that conversation making it all about you. When you're having to step into that difficult conversation, it's about the other person and what they did. So make sure that you lead with that. Again, it's okay to weave in, here are the results of your behaviors, here how this impacted others, here's how what you said made them feel. Don't make it all about everybody else though, or about you. Make it about the other person. All right. So let's just wrap those up and summarize them. So again, the 4-step approach to handling the difficult conversation. Number 1, prepare with clarity and intent. Number 2 is use empathy and active listening. Number 3 is address the issue with facts, not emotions. And number 4 is create that path forward with accountability. Strengthening communication skills. This is something that is critical for leaders. And as new leaders, you're not going to come right from day one being strong at these. This is where that repetition, the practice, the stepping into these situations, having the conversations, taking time to reflect back on them comes into play, because it does take practice and it does take time. So I want you to give yourself grace in stepping into these conversations. The first one isn't going to go perfectly, right? You're going to need to do it a couple times. And so that's where I would encourage you, make sure that you reflect back on them and give yourself grace. Difficult conversations is a key aspect of leadership. And this is something that I do work with emerging leaders on in my Level Up Your Leadership program. So if you are ready to strengthen your communication skills, no longer let difficult conversations keep you up at night, and level up your leadership, then book your free call today and let's talk this through. This is something that I can help you with. And again, if you're struggling with it, don't be embarrassed, because this is something that all new leaders and sometimes tenured leaders do struggle with. So I hope that you have found this episode valuable and that you believe that you can now handle difficult conversations with confidence. I appreciate you tuning in this week, and I hope that you will be tuning in each and every week as we are going to be discussing the strategies, the development action items, and mindsets that new leaders can leverage to step confidently into the right leadership roles for them. Until next time, my fellow leaders, lead with confidence, show up every day as the leader that you are striving to be, and make the decision today to level up your leadership this year. Thanks for listening to A Leader's Journey podcast. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you're excited to learn more, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and tune in next week for another exciting leadership lesson. I'd love to help you level up your leadership, achieve the goals you desire, and design your unique leadership journey. So click the link in the show notes to schedule a free Level Up Your Leadership session. During this time, we will define where you are in several key areas of leadership, where you desire to be, and how you can level up your leadership. You don't need to do this alone, so let's chat today and get your journey started. Don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn or in the A Leader's Journey community on Facebook, and share this episode with another leader so we can all learn and grow together. That's all for this episode, and I'll see you next week. Until then, lead with confidence, show up every day as the leader you are striving to be, and make the decision today to level up your leadership this year.